working. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Just gotta make sure we're all working here, right? Okay. All right.
Now, I see you, Roger. Oh, there you are. Beautiful.
You're all set to go.
Okay. All right. Here I go with my script. Good morning. I am Paul Dawson. I'm the Board of Assessors Chair. I'd like to confirm that all members and other persons anticipated on today's meeting agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Walter McDonough. Walter, how's your last name pronounced?
McDonough.
McDonough. Walter McDonough.
Present.
Stanley Winston.
Yes, here, present.
And then for staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Chip Davis.
Here.
Great. And anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative, although I believe there are none anticipated today. So this is the introduction to the remote meeting. Good morning. This is an open meeting of the Needham Board of Assessors. It's being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting, the Needham Board of Assessors is convening by Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care to not screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the meeting. And here are the ground rules for the meeting. We will be turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do get started with our agenda, let's see, excuse me. Before we do so, please permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. And with that, Chip, I yield the floor to you. Chip Davis.
All right, I am going to go through the materials that were distributed to you the other day. The first group are several deferral renewals. I will just refer to them by number and let you know in advance that Nancy has done the due diligence on all of these renewals to make sure that they are in compliance with the statutory regulations. And Mr. Chairman, I'd ask you to call for a vote on application number 1.
Yep, let me, Chip, I'm sorry, I have to switch screens here for a minute. It'll take me just a second. Oh, golly, hold on, I apologize.
Wow.
Okay. Chip, do I need to introduce these at all in a specific manner?
No, you've all have them for review, so we can, and again, Nancy has vetted all of them as far
Okay.
as being in compliance with the statutory regulations for Chapter 41A. So it's
And are we doing them as a group or individually?
individually. You can call for a vote on number 1.
Okay, so going back to my script. So on item number 1 of the deferrals, let's see, we'll go through the roll call. Walter McDonough,
Approved, yes.
Stanley Winston,
Granted.
and this is Paul Dawson. I approve as well. So that one is unanimous.
Let's move on to application number 2. Again, this is a renewal that has been vetted by Nancy to make sure it complies with the statutory regulations of Chapter 41A.
Okay. Walter McDonough,
Approved,
Stanley Winston,
Approved.
and speaking for Paul Dawson, I approve as well.
All right, I'll move on to application number 3. Again, this has been vetted by Nancy for statutory compliance with Chapter 41A.
Okay, here's the vote. Walter McDonough,
approved,
Stanley Winston,
Approved.
and speaking for Paul Dawson, I approve as well.
Okay, brings me to application number 4. Again, it's a repeat deferral, and Nancy has vetted it for compliance with Chapter 41A.
Great. All right, roll call. Walter McDonough,
approved,
Stanley Winston,
Approved.
and Paul Dawson approves as well.
And this brings us to the last of the deferrals for this morning. This is number 5. Again, it's a deferral renewal and has been vetted by Nancy for statutory Chapter 41A compliance.
Okay, roll call. Walter McDonough,
approved,
Stanley Winston,
Approved.
and Paul Dawson approves as well.
All right, that brings us to the next item, which is a request for an abatement of an excise tax. You can see from the materials you were given that the appellant moved to Illinois, turned in his Massachusetts plates with the understanding that Illinois would cancel him with Massachusetts, and immediately got a Illinois registration for his car. For some reason or other, the state of Illinois never notified the state of Massachusetts that those plates had been canceled, and he received an excise tax bill that we are being asked to abate of $41.28. Mr. Chair, if you want to take a roll call.
Okay, roll call on whether we approve this. Walter McDonough,
approved,
Stanley Winston,
Approved.
and Paul Dawson approves as well. Unanimous.
Okay, I'm now moving on to the abatement applications we're handling today. You have the spreadsheet of those applications. The number of each, I'll refer to each application by number. You have the materials to review. I will go through them briefly and ask the chairman to call for a vote on that application.
Are we in number 8 right now?
We're starting with number 8, that's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'm going to go through those materials. The first 2 pages you see are houses in the immediate neighborhood that sold recently that are similar to the subject property and sold for considerably less than the assessed value for FY20 of the subject property. The last page is a spreadsheet of other comparable properties that you can see are within our normal assessment to sales ratio. There's an overall median ASR of 101, where the subject property, the purchase price was $1,357,000. That was in August of 2019. The assessed value was $1,621,000, which is an assessment to sales ratio of 1.18, which is a bit high. And I propose, as you see, master sheet, abating the value of that property to $1,475,900. And Mr. Chairman, I would ask you to call for a vote on that application.
Okay, we will take a vote on this application to reduce the assessed value to $1,475,900. Roll call, Walter McDonough. Walter, you're muted, I think.
Yeah, I lost you for a second. Am I voting to approve?
Sorry, Walter,
You hear me now?
Yep, much better, much better.
All right. So, okay. Are we voting?
Yes,
Yes.
we're voting to approve reducing the assessed value to $1,475,900.
Okay, I approve.
Okay. And Stanley Winston?
Approved.
Okay, and Paul Dawson approves as well.
All right, moving on to application number 26, which is also tied to applications 44 and 45. Application 26 is from fiscal year 19 and has to do with a settlement of an appellate tax board case. They filed the appellate tax board for FY19. We've agreed to reduce the value. And if you look at the second page of application number 26, you can see that the abated amount is $684,850. And that there's been a withdrawal of that appellate tax board case filed at the appellate tax board, and it will not go forward.
Now, Chip, that was fiscal year 2019, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So
Do we need
I
to
have
vote on
a,
that? Are we voting on that one, or is that already done?
We have to vote on the abating that that
Okay.
amount for FY19.
Okay, so
I have a
go ahead, Walter.
question. So basically, if I vote to approve, we're approving a settlement.
Yes, we are.
Okay, great.
Okay, so the vote is on reducing the assessed valuation of 49 Green Street from $3,490,800 to $2,805,950. And we'll vote on it now. Walter McDonough,
Approved.
Stanley Winston,
Approved.
and Paul Dawson approves as well.
Okay, the next application is number 44 on your spreadsheet for fiscal year 20. This is the same property, and we are voting on abating that property in accordance with the settlement that we made at the appellate tax board, which called for an abatement for the same property for fiscal year 20 as number 44, again, number 44 on your list.
Yep.
And you see that we are reducing the property by $645,400 for fiscal year 20.
Yep. Okay. All right. Chip, do you want to say anything about your process in doing that, or do we just want to vote on it?
No, well,
I mean, I know the process, I know what you did and I'm fine with it, but I don't know if for the purposes of the meeting or Walter or Stan, if they,
Well, I've attached the letter memorializing the ATV
okay,
settlement to this
Okay.
particular application, so I assume everybody's read it. We can
okay,
just-
Yep.
okay.
Yes.
All right, so that's fine. So we'll now take the vote on reducing the assessment of 49 Green Street for fiscal year 2020 from $3,349,800 to a new valuation of $2,704,400. Walter, how do you vote?
Approved.
And Stanley Winston, how do you vote?
Approved.
Okay, and Paul Dawson approves as well.
Okay, that brings us to application number 45, which again is tied to the appellate tax board settlement, and the appellant has agreed to accept the denial on that particular piece of property for fiscal year 20 as part of the appellate tax board settlement. So there'll be no reduction in that, and you're basically voting at this point to deny that application.
Okay, so,
Which property is that, Chip?
That's number 45. It's a piece of vacant land that's part of the tied to 49 Green Street.
now Chip,
Okay.
this says on the property ID in section B of the form that it's 0 Green Street?
Yes, it is. There's no building there, so
Okay,
it's just a vacant lot.
okay, so are we calling it 0 or 45? That's
It's 0.
0, okay. All right, so we're voting to deny the abatement application submitted for fiscal year 2020 on 0 Green Street. Walter McDonough, how would you like to vote?
Approved.
No, I think we're denying, well,
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I denied. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was approving the denial. Denied.
Great. Okay. And Stanley Winston, how do you vote?
Denied.
Okay. And Paul Dawson denies this as well.
So that brings us to application number 46, which is map and lot 116-55, and that's how I'll refer to that as opposed to the address. This particular property, the appellant pointed out to us that we had more area of the basement considered finished than there actually is. I had originally planned to go out and confirm that by looking at the property, which unfortunately in this day and age is not something that that can be done. So I asked her to send me pictures of the portion of the basement that's in question, and those are the last page of your packet there on that particular property.
I just want to say it's a beautiful mechanical room.
Yes, it is. It's very nice. It's a brand new house. It's a very nice house, but it appears that when we were first in there looking at the house, that area was framed up, and our assumption was that it would be finished with the rest of the basement, but apparently it was not. So I made an adjustment to the amount of finished basement in the house, which resulted.
Okay. All right. So you have reduced, or you're proposing to reduce the valuation from $1,918,500 to $1,875,000. And I'll now take the vote. Walter McDonough, how do you vote on this?
Approved.
And Stanley Winston, how do you vote on this?
Approved.
And Paul Dawson approves as well. Chip, you're on mute, I believe.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you, Walter. I cannot hear Chip.
I think I've been unmuted.
There you go.
Okay.
I was just gonna digress for a second. On 48, do you see who the attorney is?
Yes.
You know who that is?
No.
Yes.
Remember the sports fellow?
Yeah, he
Who
does
was
the
it?
late show. He still does
The
that.
sports fellow was the big sports talk show in Boston in the 70s and 80s, and Mark Whitkin was one of the masterminds.
Oh,
I've actually
really?
met him. He's a really nice guy. He's very, yeah, interesting.
That's
Good
great.
lawyer, too. Very, very good lawyer.
That's great. I do know some lawyers at Davis Mallman. It's a good group.
It is.
Okay, I don't know how much you heard of me before, but applications 48, 49, and 50 are tied together. They were all filed by the same attorney, and there was no authorization by the appellants for that attorney to file on their behalf. If you look at the last page of the packet you have there, it's a request that I sent to the attorney, showing that he had been, he had been granted authorization by the 3 property owners to represent them. And that, if you look at the postmark, was sent February 24th of 2020. To date, again, we have no response. We gave him 30 days to respond. And, for that reason, we have no way of knowing whether he actually represents those property owners or not.
Okay.
So I would recommend denying those 3 applications. We can take them one at a time.
Okay. All right.
Um,
So go ahead, Walter.
Can
I'm
I
at a lot.
move to do all 3? Can I move to do all 3 at the same time?
No, we'll do them one at a time.
Okay.
All right. On application number 48, on the property located at 144 Gould Street, we have a proposal, a motion to deny this application. Walter McDonough, how do you vote?
Deny.
And Stanley Winston, how do you vote?
Denied.
And Paul Dawson denies as well. All right, moving on to application number 49. We have an abatement application for 100 2nd Avenue. And we have a motion to deny this application because we don't have confirmation that this attorney is authorized to represent the owner. Walter McDonough, how do you vote on this?
Deny.
And Stanley Winston, how do you vote?
Denied.
And Paul Dawson denies this application as well. And then we have the property located at 75 2nd Avenue. We have a motion to deny this application. And Walter McDonough, how would you like to vote on this?
Deny.
And Stanley Winston, how would you like to vote on this?
Denied.
And Paul Dawson denies this application as well.
Okay, moving on to application number 62. This is map and lot 77, or map 77, lot 1. And this is an application where it is a commercial property, and every year we send them a request for their income and expense information, and they are required by Chapter 38D of Mass General Law to supply that information to the assessors. In this particular case, that information was not supplied. We used the best of our knowledge to derive an income value for the property, and again, having no information from them, which is not in compliance with the law, I'll leave it to you to vote on that application.
Okay, the other thing I note, Chip, is that they said based on income capitalization approach, property is overvalued, but it's hard to know that if they don't provide the information.
Correct.
Chip, the second notice? A second notice for the income and expense report?
That's standard operating procedure, so they would have gotten it.
Okay.
Okay, so On the property located at 589 Highland Avenue, we have a motion to deny this abatement application. Walter McDonough, how would you like to vote?
The way the question's phrased, I vote approve. Because you just said the motion is to
Good
deny.
point. Good point. Should I rephrase the question, or do you want to keep going down the line this way?
No, that's okay. I just think on the, I vote to deny the abatement.
Fine, that's fine. Or I think it's fine. Stanley Winston, how would you like to vote?
Denied.
Okay, and Paul Dawson denies this application for abatement as well.
That brings us to application number 63, which is map 77, lot 5, and it is basically the same situation as the prior application. It's a commercial property. They did send us a report on their expenses, but their expenses only. So there's really no way to derive an income valuation based on the information they supplied, since we don't have the side of it. And we used our best judgment in this. And on this particular property, received numerous requests, and that leaves us at this point. We value that particular property on the cost of the property as opposed to the income, because we have, again, no income information other than some of their expenses, which were very minimal and just didn't make a lot of sense. So we continue to value that property by I'm just double checking here, by the cost methodology, which is all we can really use in lieu of any type of information as far as their income.
Yep. Okay, so on the application for abatement of
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Chip, I'm going to direct this question to you.
Walter? Sorry, I'm not hearing Walter.
I didn't either.
He looks frozen. Chip, are you there?
Yeah.
Waiting.
Walter, sorry. Walter, we did not hear the last couple minutes of what you were saying.
Okay, I'll rephrase this quickly then. We're denying this procedurally. We're denying this based on procedure.
Yeah, we're denying it basically because we did not receive this information from them to formulate an income value that they're required to supply by law. We received some expense information for calendar year 18, but we have no income information. So we have in the past, since we've never received anything from them, I thought the best method for valuation was using the cost approach, because we have absolutely no idea of what their income is. So we continued to value it by the cost approach, lacking any information from them.
No, I'm just concerned, it is a large taxpayer. It seems like there's been some sort of breakdown in their internal communication. So, I'm just raising that issue because it just, for such a large piece of property and such a large assessment, that you'd think people would be a little bit more on the ball, but it's important for them to kind of reestablish a better sense of communication with the town assessor. I think just personal comment.
Yeah, just to add to it, on at least one occasion, I personally delivered the income and expense statement request to the facility itself.
Great.
Yeah.
No, I think it's on them. I appreciate what you've done.
Yeah.
I just not to repeat myself. When you're dealing with a number that large, you'd like to see people be a little bit more involved in the process for their own benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we certainly would. It'd make life a lot easier for everyone.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so we have a motion to deny an abatement for the property located at 235 Gould Street. Walter, this is another one of those, I guess you're, well, I don't know.
I vote to deny.
Thank you. And Stanley Winston, how would you like to vote on this?
Denied.
And Paul Dawson denies this abatement application as well.
Okay, that brings us to number 67 on your spreadsheet, which is map 300, lot 26. And this particular property, it's an income property. They did file an income and expense statement, which showed us that they did have a temporary increase in their vacancy. That was pretty much offset by an increased rent on some of the new leases that they signed. The value of the property actually went down slightly from fiscal year 19 to fiscal year 20. We'll take another look at that vacancy and their new rents next year and establish another value. But as it was, we were giving them an adjustment downward because of the increased vacancy. And you'll also notice on the abatement application, they listed the assessed value as $12,440,000. It's actually $12,356,400. They were listing the prior year's value. Not that that really makes any difference. They also gave us an opinion of value of $10 million, which is backed up by absolutely nothing at all that was filed with the application.
Okay. All right. So for the abatement application on the property located at 254 2nd Avenue, we have a motion to deny the abatement application. Walter McDonough, how would you like to vote?
Denied.
And Stanley, how would you like to vote?
Denied.
And Paul Dawson votes to deny this application as well.
Okay, that brings us to application number 81, which is map 305, lot 5. And you can see by the note in your upper left-hand corner that the property's been abandoned for a number of years. I went out to take a look at the property, and it looks as if the the inside has been partially demolished in anticipation of some type of remodeling, and that you can see from the appellant's explanation at the bottom of the page. Never took place for a number of circumstances, but in looking at the picture of the property that is attached to your materials on the property record card, you can see that it looks fairly grim from the outside. From the inside, it looks a lot more grim. Unfortunately, it's deteriorating fairly quickly. So what I proposed was to put an adjustment for functional obsolescence on the property of 50%, which reduces the value of the building by $186,000 from an assessed value of $957,300 to an assessed value of $771,100.
Okay. Let's see, 81. All right. Chip, is this property? Okay. So I'm sorry, I was confused by the mailing address being different from the property address.
Yeah, okay. Nobody lives there, obviously.
Okay. All right.
Doesn't happen.
All right. So we have a motion to reduce the assessed valuation on 84 Whitman Road from...
I have a question.
Yep.
Will you go back and evaluate this property again in next fiscal year?
Oh, without doubt.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a motion to reduce the valuation on 84 Whitman Road from $957,300 to $771,100. And I will take a roll call vote. Walter McDonough, how do you vote?
Approve.
Okay. And Stanley Winston, how do you vote?
Approved.
And Paul Dawson approves this new assessment as well.
Okay, that brings us to the final application of the day, is number 84, and that is map 74, lot 43. It is a commercial property, as you can see from the application. There's absolutely no information to support that application that was filed. I called the attorney who filed the application, and he's a well-known Boston attorney, real estate attorney, and I asked his associate to please supply me with some information in support of the application, because our assessment, as far as I can see, seems fair based on the information that they submitted to us. And whether it's the current crisis or not, I don't know, but it's been well over a month, and I have not received anything from that law firm. So I see no other choice but to deny the application and see if they are willing to supply any information towards the appellate process.
All right. Any questions, Walter or Stan?
Chip, I just have one quick one, and it's an overall. You used to be able to come up with a percentage of how many of the commercial property owners sent back the income and expense. It used to be around 60%. Is that increased or decreased?
It's increased slightly.
Okay.
I don't want to give you an exact number because I'd be guessing, but I think it's about 65, 67%.
Okay.
Okay, so it falls back on the property owners, and they're not fulfilling their obligation to the state.
Yeah, again, they're obligated by Chapter 38D of Mass General Law to return the income and expense request, even if they're labeling it as owner occupied. That at least gives us an idea to use other properties that are similar to theirs to derive a value for the rent.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. So we have a motion or a recommendation to deny the abatement application submitted for 175 Highland Avenue. Walter, how would you like to vote?
I vote to deny the application.
And Stanley, how would you like to vote?
Deny.
And Paul Dawson is voting to deny this application as well.
So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if you want to set up another meeting for possibly next Friday at the same time. That would be April 24th.
Next Friday is not good for me, unfortunately.
Okay. How about the following week?
May Day.
Is there one day that works better than another?
So let's see. Sorry. The 30th, either Thursday the 30th or May 1st is fine with me.
Stan,
I prefer
Either one of those dates I'm good with.
I prefer the 30th. That works for everybody.
It's fine with me.
So
I'm in.
9:30 on the 30th?
That'd be great.
Perfect.
Okay, I will, through the stages of getting that posted, and if anything comes up, I will let you know. I probably won't post that till next week, so we've got some time, and that will give me time to get through hopefully some more of the applications And there are also a couple of taxpayers who want to meet with the board, and we'll see if we can push that back sometime where we can actually meet in person and they can bring their evidence to present to you, with them rather than trying to do a screen share. But
Okay.
I will inform them.
Hey,
that
can
we're
I ask you, Roger, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Sure.
Let's say hypothetically, under the public meeting law, that we had to move into executive session, for an actual reason, okay?
Mhm.
We would just, basically, and this is not a legal question because I'm rendering a legal opinion, but it's a technology question. Do we have the capability of just shutting everything off except the 4 people who are proved to be in an executive session?
Yes, if we go into executive session, that can be done.
Unfortunately, though, hang on a second. On the webinar piece, there's no way to I don't think there's any way to stop the recording. We have to essentially end the webinar, go back in, go into executive session in some other fashion. We may have to start the webinar up again to be in that preliminary area, that practice area, to do an executive session. And then start it up again later. There's no way, as far as I know, to pause the meeting at any point to sort of say, okay, we're pausing the meeting, we stopped broadcasting, and then start up again. So I'm not aware of that. We essentially have to end this meeting, come back in that practice session, pre-broadcast area, and you'd have to meet at that point. So.
Okay, well, let's hope that doesn't happen then. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we can work on the logistics of that if it arises.
Yep.
I think we could always end up doing it by phone or something. I don't know. I'm just trying to think. Listen, we all have too much free time. I'm just thinking through any possible problems.
You could.
Okay, well, what I'll do is I'll check and see if we are having I assume this would only be for discussions with taxpayers because their financial information is involved, and
Correct.
we can executive session for that. As to the logistics of actually being on screen, because no votes would be taken at that meeting. We're basically taking the taxpayers' information and taking it under advisement.
Correct.
Right. You could set up a conference call, like use preconferencecall.com or something like that. Set up your own conference call.
Thanks, Roger.
I'll certainly look into it.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, there's nothing else for me.
All right. So I guess we say meeting adjourned, correct?
All right. Be safe, everybody.
Thank you, Walter. You too. Nice to see everybody. Thank
Good
you,
to see
Roger.
you. Good weekend.
You're welcome.
Stan.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll talk to you next week.
Take care.
Thank you.